Well, good evening, everybody. My name's Kathy McHenry, and I work for PA Gear Up. I'd like to thank you for joining us today for our first PA Gear Up Parent University webinar series. Our topic today is going to be the collaborative college selection process. I'd like to start with a couple of housekeeping notes before we get started. We are recording this webinar, so parents and families who can't attend this evening still have this valuable resource. It will also be available for you to refer to in the future if you need. On our webinar series, videos will be located on our YouTube channel and also on our website. And I'll be posting those links in the chat for you. The chat is open. If you have any questions throughout, please feel free to write them in and we will make sure that we answer them at the end or throughout the webinar. At the end, we will put a link to our survey in the chat so you can evaluate this session. You also receive the survey in a follow-up email. If you would like, you're also welcome to put the name of the school district where your student attends. So this evening we're joined by College Readiness 101 founder Brannon Jones. Welcome, Brannon.
Thank you so much.
Brannon is going to get us started, and I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kathy. I'm very excited, everybody. This is going to be a great series. We'll be starting here. I'm very interactive, so I am going to ask you to be active in the chat. We're going to be having questions and polls, and we're going to be together creating a great cohort of educational experiences through this series. And I'll share more about that as we get further into the presentation. But I like to begin all of my presentations with at least a thought. So if you are we talk about the collaborative parent, and the thought I want to make sure that you understand is that as a parent, your responsibility in the college journey isn't to choose the path for your child, but is to help them learn how to choose wisely, right? And as any other parent experience, that's what we're looking for. But specifically about post-secondary education, that is your job, is to make sure that you are helping them choose wisely through their educational experience. All right? We'll go ahead and keep going. So today's presentation is the first one out of the series, and it is the collaborative college selection process. I am excited. This is one of my favorite presentations. I actually work with students and parents all the time, and I feel that working with parents is where we can make the most change. We can affect the most change. We can create opportunities and actually get things done with the parents. A lot of times we work with students and they have to try to regurgitate what they've learned to their parents, oftentimes unsuccessful. So I want to make sure that we can create an opportunity for parents here. All right, so here's a little bit about me. I am an educational consultant. I'll be your facilitator for this series. I am an award-winning author with College Readiness 101. We have a platform to assist students and parents in the post-secondary readiness process. Here in Atlanta, I do have a foundation, Next Step Education. We do workshops in the community, boot camps. We do a college fair, the first real college fair, major college fair in the Atlanta area, and we give scholarships. I am a content creator, and my background is in college admissions and recruitment, student retention, Title IX, and equity. So I've done quite a few things on the college campus, and I'm excited to partner with you to provide some information. All of those things, don't worry about that. What you need to know about Brannon is that my job is to help you get to and through college. All right. So if you are in front of your computers or on your phone, today's sessions and all of our sessions are going to be about starting a conversation. So I want to make sure that I can provide some information that will help you have meaningful discussions at home. as you navigate this process. So grab a pen, grab a pad. I'll give you, a couple of minutes to do that, or a notes app if you have your phone available, because we're going to give you a couple of nuggets to assist you along the way. And this is going to be the first of many sessions that we have. Okay. Talking about that, on the left, you will see our session for tonight. It's the collaborative college selection process. You have me for an hour, and I want to make sure that you are getting your questions answered. So please be active in the chat. If we're talking about something, if I'm talking about something, don't hesitate, ask your questions. I'm going to ask Ms. Kathy to pause or ask me what the question is, and we'll continue on. And just as a reminder, for the spring semester, we actually have 4 sessions. So this is just the first one. We're going to come back on the 25th, and we're going to talk about financing your child's college education. All right. So we'll have 2 of them in March as well. And we're very excited for this series. So tonight we'll be talking about what you could be doing to collaborate with your child. All right. First, what you need to know is that there are 4 post-secondary educational options for your child to choose from. This presentation, this series is going to be about college readiness. So we're going to be talking about enrollment, the E for enrollment, but those other options are enlistment, employment, and entrepreneurship. Those are the main options that your child will have. And so I just wanted to make sure that you understood that enrollment or college isn't for every student, right? And there are really savvy ways to get post-secondary education, or pay for your post-secondary education, or just get on-the-job training for the workforce. And so there are savvy ways to do that, but our series for this particular topic is going to be college. We'll explore the parent's role in the college preparatory journey. We will understand the components of strategic college selection, and we will learn how to build a balanced college list. So again, please make sure you grab a pen and a pad or your notes app. Okay. And lastly, I always want to make sure that I talk with our parents as a cohort. So this is a judge-free educational experience for all parents. The reason that here at College Readiness 101, we split parents up from their children is that we want to make sure that you have a safe environment to learn with a cohort of your peers, right? So I don't know who's in the room yet. I'll get that information next. But some of you may be advanced while others are behind or just beginning. We want to make sure that there is an honest conversation that we can have about where you are, so that we can assist you through this process. And for this to work, everyone has to have a space to learn. We want to make sure that this is for everybody. So I say, for all of the parents who are going to be here, please ask your questions, because this is how we're going to be able to assist you on your journey. All right. I have 5 questions for you. Miss Kathy, I'm going to ask you to assist me in this. So if you can hear me, please get ready to type in the chat at least 5 times, right? So my first question is, I want to know who's in the room. So are you a senior, junior, sophomore, or freshman parent? If you are a parent of 2 high school students, let's go with the higher grade. So let's see who's in the room. Please go ahead and put in the chat
We have
where
some
we are.
seniors. We have 1 sophomore,
Okay.
sophomores. So far, mainly all seniors. There's another sophomore.
Okay. Okay. So we have a mixed bag. Are we
I have
going with a
1
majority? Majority rules.
junior and senior.
Junior,
Junior and sophomore.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. So now that we know who's in the room, that helps inform me about how I can discuss certain topics going forward. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Poll question number 2. Poll question number 2. How confident do you feel in your understanding of today's college admissions process? How confident do you feel? These are kind of honest checks for yourself, right? How do you feel?
Overwhelmed,
Mm-hmm.
negative, low.
Negative.
We got one fairly confident,
Okay.
mostly overwhelmed, non-confident,
Okay.
and we
Okay.
have help.
So they said help. All right. That's what
Yep.
we're here for. That's what I'm here for, right? We are going to begin this process. This is setting the foundation for you parents. All right. Question number three. Question number three. How often do you and your child talk about life after high school? This is a very important question. How often at home are you having these conversations? Right? This is going to inform us about what we are doing.
A lot. Every
A
day,
lot. Every day. Okay.
weekly, often for 2 minutes, weekly,
Okay.
once a week, monthly,
Okay.
a lot
A
of
mixed
weekly
bag.
and monthly,
A
some
mixed bag.
daily,
Okay. Okay. And like I
often.
said, and like I said at the beginning, everything starts with a conversation. Right? All right. Question number four. Question number four. Which statement best reflects your approach to supporting your child? How do you approach it? I want to protect them from mistakes. I want to guide them through decisions. I want them to own their process with my support, or I'm still figuring out. You could just do the letters. That's a lot to write. You could just do the letters. How do you approach this? How do you approach supporting your child for their post-secondary education?
B and C, still a
Okay.
few still figuring out. Mainly B's and C's. I got
Maybe
it
B's and C's. Okay.
there. Yep.
That's cool. That's
Know
cool.
their
That's cool.
process.
All right. All right. Last poll question for the parents. Last poll question. Question number five. When you think about your child's college journey, which role do you most naturally see yourself playing? This is the number one question for today's presentation. Are you the driver? Are you the co-pilot? Are you the navigator? Or are you the passenger? How do you naturally see yourself approaching this with your child?
Driver,
Okay.
navigator, okay, multiple navigators. We got a passenger, we got a
Okay.
co-pilot, another passenger.
Okay.
Somebody's asking, can I be two of these? And of course
Yeah.
you can.
Yes, you can. You can. You know what? I don't mind that. Yes, you can. This is a very
Co-pilot,
important conversation.
navigator.
We got a couple of navigators. Okay.
I got a backseat driver.
A backseat driver. Well, let's see what the best practices are. So we'll go ahead and begin. All right. So the college selection process, as you would understand this presentation to be, is supposed to be collaborative, right? Both you and your child's hand should be on the steering wheel, right? We want to make sure that you are creating this experience and planning out the future together with your child. Okay. But since we're talking about enrollment, why college? Why is this the option to choose for those who are interested in college? So on average, college graduates earn 1.2 million more in a lifetime. That's from Georgetown University study. Over 60% of jobs in the US will now require some form of post-secondary education. It doesn't have to be a four-year university, right? But some form of education beyond high school is going to be needed for at least 60% of the jobs in the US. And college helps students develop critical thinking, communication, and leadership skills, right? This is why college would be attractive to families. Okay. All right. If you are going to have your notes, the first thing I want you to write down is your parent's role. Your role in the college preparatory process. You have three roles. One is to create exposure, you are to provide access, and you are to support decisions. So, what does that look like, Brandon? So, you need to create exposure opportunities. How can your child learn or get more information about what their journey could look like or what their future could look like? So, that is making sure that they are connecting with college recruiters, making sure they are going to college fairs or college tours, making sure they are attending meet and greets, making sure they are exposing themselves to career opportunities, um, having interviews with individuals in the career that they are interested in. It's exposure opportunities. Your job is to create exposure opportunities. And so that's number one, right? We got to expose them so they can understand what their opportunities are. Number two is to provide access. So I like to call them access points. So instead of trying to connect to every little thing, you want to make sure that you are connecting with somebody or a company who has information to be able to share for you to help you along your journey, right? So that's where PA Gear Up comes from. That might be where some nonprofit organization in your area who does college readiness. That's where connecting with somebody who does SAT or ACT prep, connecting with individuals who can assist with tutoring if your child may need it. So we want to provide access to resources, okay? And number three, you want to make sure that you are supporting decisions that are being made. And I know for a lot of parents, depending on the decision, that could be difficult, but we want to make sure that you are supporting the decisions. They will need your support throughout this process, okay? So that is the parent's role in the college preparatory journey, okay? All right. We're about to get into the meat of the presentation. So to collaboratively select a college, you must first understand what you and your child are looking for, right? So we have to make sure that the experience that you are looking for is available, right? And so let's see what is important to you. So if you are available, if you're in front of your computer, let's get into the chat. I want to speak to a few parents to find out what's important to you when selecting a college, right? If you could give me your top three college characteristics that would affect your decision making for one college over the other, okay? Give me like your top three out of this list. I'll wait, Miss Kathy, if you could just give me
Sure.
somebody's top three.
Um, I know there's this thing, affordability,
Affordability, okay.
location,
Location,
actually is saying programs, majors, athletics, and tuition.
okay.
Melissa is tuition, major, career outcome,
Tuition, major, and career outcomes, okay. And give me one
tuition,
more.
tuition, demographics, graduation, employment, and updated curricula.
Okay, all right. So what I'm hearing, I am hearing a theme for the parents, and that's usually the theme that I always get is tuition and price, right? We want to make sure that we can afford this college. That's usually the first one for parents, right? That's great. But we have to like quantify that. We have to see, what does that mean? How much are you willing to pay, or how much are you willing to go in tuition for a college, right? Is $10,000 a year in your ballpark area that you're thinking? Is $50,000 a year for some of the private schools in your ballpark area? That's something that you want to think about. One of the other important ones that a lot of parents are thinking about as well is support on campus, right? So most colleges, well, all colleges are going to have a student affairs department, and they're going to see what type of supports do they have for my child. Do they have a tutoring department? Do they have office hours? Do they have a career services department? Do they have a counselor should my child need it? Things like that, right? And then a lot of parents are also interested in crime and safety, right? That's another big one for parents, right? And so if you have your notepads, I want you to write this down. So every school, every college who receives federal financial aid must present every October their safety report, right? Their campus safety report. There was a young lady in the 70s by the name of Jeanne Cleary. She was brutally raped and murdered at Lehigh University. And her parents said that if they would have known that this campus had so much crime, then they would not have sent their daughter to the college. As a result, Congress passed the Clery Act, right? And so every college must publicly disclose all of the crimes that have been committed on or adjacent to their campus. All right. So when you go to a college campus website, we go to a college's website, you can go to the bottom, generally it's at the bottom of the footer, you'll see something that says the Clery Report, right? And that will tell you about all of the crime and the stats that are happening on that college campus. Okay. So as a parent, figuring out what's important to you, think about these, write them down, figure out what's going to make a decision for you, right? Cool. Now, we talked about what's important to you. Let's talk about what's important to them, right? So when I was a recruiter, my college, we had a holistic approach to admissions, meaning that we looked at the entire student, right? And so that included their academic profile. So that includes the GPA, the course rigor. Are they taking AP, IB, dual enrollment classes, right? And did they have the required credits for graduation and for entry into my institution? All right. Number two was standardized test scores. What did your test scores look like? After COVID, a lot of colleges went test optional or test blind. A lot of colleges are bringing those test scores back now. But just understand, just because the school is test optional or test blind, that does not mean that for scholarships, you do not have to provide test scores, right? So you definitely want to make sure you understand, is this college test optional or test blind? We looked at the extracurricular activities. What were they doing in and out of school? Did they have any leadership roles? Did they do community service? So we're looking at what are you involved in extracurricular activities. Uh, Fourthly, we looked at the recommendations, like who is saying something about you and what are they saying, right? And it has to be somebody who can speak to your child's academic or work ethic, right? So parents, you are not a recommendation writer. Do not get your the uncles and aunts or anybody like that to speak to who they are as a person. It needs to be somebody who can speak to their academic or their athletic or their work ethic or what they're doing in a club. That's what they're going to be focused on, right? And then lastly is their story, right? How are they articulating themselves on paper, right? So we're definitely looking at their essays and they're definitely looking at how they articulating themselves. Miss Kathy, I'm gonna pause right here because I want to see if there was any questions from any of the parents based on what we have gone through so far. So I'll give a few seconds to see if there was any questions and if parents may be typing questions down. So I'll give you a few seconds. But are there any questions so far?
Vanessa is asking how many recommendations should they get and when?
So that's going to be depending on the college. So every college admissions process is going to be different. Some only require one, some will require up to three. And so it's going to be depending on the college. For scholarships, though, those are also different. You might see, usually they require just one, or they'll require somebody from academics and they require somebody from extracurricular or community service. But I would say if you at least have two in the can, that would be good. That you can use that same letter of recommendation over and over again for them.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Jason had a question.
Okay.
Um, I think it was for the previous screen. He's saying, what is adjacent? Is it a certain number of miles or in the
Yeah,
city or town?
yeah. So it's definitely it's a space, geographical space around the campus, right? So if you're going on a college campus, if you may pass a college campus on somewhere around your area. The sidewalk that is in front of the campus but may not be a part of the campus, something that may be across the street from the campus, right? That is kind of the adjacency to a campus. So not like a city or not like a whole area, but just adjacent to the corners of the campus. Okay.
Okay.
All
Um,
right.
Gladys, what ratio of academic to extracurricular activities do you think is appropriate for getting into many colleges?
So I don't know if there's like a percentage, but I would say as a recruiter, we were looking for very specific, like what are you doing? We didn't want you to spread yourself out too thin, right? Have been in 20 clubs, just to say you were in 20 clubs doesn't help, right? We want to see, are you an athlete, right? Are you growing? Did you become a captain of the basketball team, right? If you were in the band, and you were in the band for all 4 years, was there some growth? Did you become second chair? Did you become first chair? Did you get any awards? Did you play in any other activities like parades? And did your band get, first place in some competition, right? If you were working, right? Because that is an extracurricular activity. Um, were you a cashier? What were you responsible for? Can you articulate, this was something that I needed to do for, my family, or I'm ambitious to be in this business, or I plan, this is a plan for me to do something in the future, right? So just spreading yourself thin is not going to help you, right? We want to know, what are you doing? Are you growing in that, right? So if there's only two or three things that you're doing, are you growing in that? And then how is this making you a better person, or how is this going to affect you being a good student on my campus? How does this translate from where you are to my campus, right? So I don't want to say there's a ratio to it, but we do want to make sure that there are kind of specific or honed in things that your child is doing. Okay.
That was the last question.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. We'll go on, but parents, feel free to ask the questions. I'm gonna ask Miss Kathy throughout this presentation. We'll pause and we'll get your questions answered. Okay. All right. One of the biggest things I want you to be able to do. So please, 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 write this down. We are I say my generation, and some parents who have high school kids. You may be a little older than me. We were told to go to college and take out student loans, and this was a part of like the American dream, and you'll pay your loans off, when you get your career. We are not in that era anymore, right? You need to be in a position to be a savvy consumer of education. We're not going to school and taking out loans just to take out loans because you're supposed to go to college, right? We need to make sure that we are making business decisions, and we are making those decisions strategically, okay? So, how do you do that? Well, one, you need to first have a balanced college list, okay? And what does that mean? You have a list of 6 to 10 colleges that your child may be interested in, but viable colleges, right? Ones that we are really considering, right? You can have a list of 30 colleges. You can apply to 30 colleges. As a matter of fact, you can use the Common App or the Common Black College app, right? And you can apply to many colleges at one time. And that helps you with your not paying so many application fees. And there's a whole fund and budget you got to have for that if you do it individually. But it also creates an opportunity for you to compare apples to apples, right? But you want to make sure that you can dwindle that college list down to about 6 to 10 really viable options, right? And you're going to place them into three categories. One is going to be the reach schools. Two is going to be the target schools, and three are going to be the likely schools. So the reach schools are schools that we can identify them as dream schools, right? Schools that if I get accepted, I'm going to this school, right? A lot of times that comes with a lower chance of admissions. For some people, these are like the Ivy League schools. Um, and so that's if you get in, I'm going, or like the flagship school in your state, right? If I get accepted, I'm going. Number two would be the target school. And it's really those schools that you meet the academic profile pretty well, right? You know your child, and you know what their strengths and weaknesses are academically. You know what they're doing in extracurriculars. So it's the academic profile. Can I cut the mustard at this school? Is like really on par for who I am. Now you got to understand, for some schools, Harvard may be a reach school. For some students, Harvard is a target school, right? Or a likely school, right? Because of their academic profile, who they are. And so you want to make sure that when understanding this particular target school is meeting them where their profile is. And then lastly is a likely school. There is a high chance of acceptance. Generally, that's like your local schools. For a lot of students, that may be the community college or the technical college in your area. But it might be, the flagship school in your state, right? So here at UGA, a lot here at Georgia, UGA is the flagship school here in the state of Georgia, and they don't have a really high acceptance rate. And so for a lot of students, they want to go to UGA. It's a flagship school. But there are a lot of deferrals that happen from the UGA admissions department, right? And so you have to know where your child is to figure out what is a reach, a target, and a likely school. This is the first step of strategic selection, right? We want to make sure, cool, these are the three schools that are your reach schools. If you can get in there, then like we're going and we got to figure it out. Here are your, 2 to 3 target schools. And here are your 2 to 3 likely schools. If these things don't work out, here's somewhere that you can be able to go. Okay, that's the first step of strategic selection. Okay, this is where you want to be. I'm going to ask you to meet me at the intersection of match and fit. Okay, this is where you want to be. So match is where you are selecting a college based on the admissions requirements. Again, we are kind of going back to that reach, target, likely, right? So where do you match? What school do you match academically? Your child match academically, right? Fit is the culture of the school. Selecting a college based on what your child wants their college experience to be, right? Do they want to go to football games and take off their shirts and have letters painted on their chest, right? Do they want to go to an HBCU and listen to the best band in the land, right? Do they want to go to a technical college and bypass a lot of the general education courses and quickly get directly into the workforce, right? What cultural experience do they want to have? And this is the best intersection to be at, because once you find a school that is a good match and a good fit, you now can reduce the amount of like people transferring and wasting, I don't want to say wasting, but spending more time and more money on their educational experience. This is where you can increase the retention rates. This is where you can find more opportunities and find your tribe on campus. Like this is where you want to be. It's that intersection of match and fit. So, Ms. Kathy, I'm gonna pause right there. I'm going to see if there are
Mhm.
any questions from the parents, particularly about where we're at in this section of the presentation.
I have none yet.
None yet? That's
No.
fine. That's fine. We'll continue on. If you do have questions, parents, go ahead and add it in the chat and we can begin those conversations. I definitely want to have a robust question and answer session. So I'm going to save time for that so we can spend time specifically on questions. Okay. All right. Parents, this is what you need to be working on. The number one skill that your child needs to master is self advocacy. Okay. This is the number one skill they need to master, because once you get to the college campus and mommy is not there anymore, daddy is not there anymore, we are going to treat them as an adult. And a lot of times, this is a difficult moment for students and parents. And I'm going to get into kind of how that affects you as a parent. All right, here are your do's and don'ts as a parent. Your do's and don'ts. One, I do want you to consistently talk about college and other post secondary options. Again, Four-year university isn't for every student, right? We want to make sure that you're talking about all of the post-secondary options, the four E's we talked about at the beginning of this presentation. You will want to, I do want you to create an expectation that some type of post-secondary education is needed. Again, it doesn't have to be a four-year university. There are all types of post-secondary options relating to college, your community colleges, your technical colleges. There are on-the-job training for a career and workforce development. And there are certificates and apprenticeships. And there are all type of options after high school. And you want to make sure that you are talking about all of the options. Number three, I do want you to partner with your child instead of directing decisions, right? This is how you can start building that self-advocacy skill, right? You need to partner with them instead of always driving what's happening, right? Number four, I want you to start early on creating a college funding plan. For those who are seniors, and we are in February, you parents of seniors, and we are in February, we are only a few months out from your child's graduation. We should have already completed the FAFSA. We should have our child already vigorously applying to scholarships, right? March is kind of a big deadline for a lot of scholarships. This should have already been in place. If you are a parent of juniors and sophomores and freshmen, you want to make sure you are building out that plan now. Okay. And lastly, I do want you to hold your child accountable. This is very big. Hold your child accountable for their actions or inactions and personal efforts that affect their future. There are a lot of parents who will let their child drive the car as it relates to their future or their college preparatory journey. And they are not held accountable for what they do or don't do, right? Parents come to the rescue, or you just let them, do what they are doing, right? I definitely want you to hold them accountable. If there is an activity, an action, an opportunity, you want to make sure that they are taking advantage of it and making sure they are learning from it, right? And so accountability is probably one of the number one things I want you to do in this process. Now, let's get to the don'ts, right? As a parent, I do not want you to try to live your life, project your fears, or inject your limitations into your child's college preparatory journey, okay? Your job is to strategize, not limit, right? That comes out a lot with parents, right? Oh, I don't want you to go far, right? So you need to be thinking about these schools. But, I tell students and parents all the time, don't go out, make it strategic. Don't go out of state unless you can make it make sense. Don't pay double or triple for what you can pay in the state of Georgia or the state of Pennsylvania, right? Make it strategic, right? Not just because you don't want them to go, right? If they can make it make financial sense, go, right? Don't be a helicopter or a lawnmower parent. So the helicopter parent on the college campus comes in when they're talking about um, the orientation, or there's some meeting with somebody on campus, and we're talking with the parent and a student here in my office, and I'm asking the student, who was an 18-year-old scholar, and they're coming in and I'm asking them questions, and the parent is the one who's answering all the questions, right? Or the lawnmower parent who is trying to cut all of the things that could be obstacles to their child out of the way, and the child is behind the lawnmower, right? And you're just trying to get everything out of the way, right? Don't do that, right? We want your child to be able to, overcome adversity. They need to be able to advocate for themselves with their instructors or with some administrator at the college. They need to be able to provide opportunities for themselves, right? And so don't be that helicopter or that lawnmower parent. You may be a crutch for them later on in life. All right. Number three, please do not withhold your financial information when it's time for them to complete the FAFSA. They will need it to receive federal financial aid. Something like 98% of students who are first time undergraduate students are dependent. right? They will need your financial information to complete the FAFSA, and they are dependent on you for that information. And then lastly, please do not guilt trip your child into staying closer because of your personal need for them to be close, right? I've worked with some families, and uh, the dad passed away, and mom was there, and mom was so connected to her daughter. And I definitely understand that. But the daughter actually needed to go away. She needed to leave and spread her wings. And it was like a growth moment for her, right? And so mom was really, really fighting that at home. But daughter did go away. And it was really good for her, right? And so these are things I want you to be thinking about as you are discussing this college preparatory journey with your child and navigating it at home. Okay. All right. And here is our last slide for this presentation. We'll be getting into this for our next presentation. But if students don't do the things necessary to help their parents pay for college, they will attend a college their parents can afford, right? And this is leading us into our next presentation. We want to make sure that your child is doing the things necessary to help you pay for their college education. Are they getting the best grades that they can? Are they taking rigorous courses and doing well in them? Are they scoring as high as they can on the SAT or the ACT? Are they applying for scholarships like it is a part-time job? How are they helping you to fund this college education, right? This is something that would be a huge, huge conversation at home, and we'll be getting into that in our next presentation. You can learn more about College Readiness 101, our parent university, our online course for parents, or the Student Success Academy is the online course for our students, or the award-winning College Readiness workbooks for those who are tangible learners, right? That is something for you to take advantage of, but you can learn more at collegereadiness101.com. All right, parent poll. For tonight's presentation, did you find the collaborative college selection process session valuable? Did you learn something today? I am trying to find out if this was helpful.
We got one B,
Yes, okay, okay.
other B,
Perfect,
they
perfect.
always. Yep.
All right, all right. So that means I'm a 3.0 student, right? I'm a 3.0 presenter. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. What I want to
Mercedes
do,
says lots, thanks, and someone said great advice.
perfect, perfect. I'm going to enter into our Q&A session. I'm going to enter into our Q&A session because I want to make sure at any of my presentations, if you have specific questions about your situation, I want to make sure that we can get those answered while we are together. So I'll give a few moments. If you have a question, go ahead and type it in the chat. I can see the chat now. So I'm also going to still ask Ms. Kathy for assistance, but I can see the chat now. If you have specific questions, go ahead and put it in chat and we will get those questions answered. If I do not have the answer, I will find it for you before our next presentation. So if you have questions, go ahead and put it in chat now. I'll give you a few moments for that.
How important are weighted honors courses for scholarships?
For scholarships, they're more important for institutional scholarships. So scholarships that are offered at that college or at your child's potential college than it is for, let's say, community or local scholarship funders. Does that make sense? So because as a funder, as a scholarship funder, I, I'm interested in what courses you've taken. Um, I like to see rigorous courses, means that you have your child has challenged themselves. They've um, created opportunities to really grow academically. That's very important, you know, but that's not as important as other aspects of your child's application for my local community scholarship. At the college, though, they are definitely looking at like what's your GPA, what are kind of the rigorous courses that they are taking, and how are they doing in those courses. So just to separate the two, for institutional scholarships, it'd be more important. All right.
Bye, Vanessa. Thank you for joining us tonight. Um, Inez says her child wants to go to a very costly school. How do I find the money to pay for it?
All right. So I'll give you a prelude of what our next presentation will be, but we need to have a robust funding plan, right? So when a lot of parents may have missed out on the opportunity for like the investment funding, like the 529 plans, or those insurances that you can have where you can kind of borrow against it, or having funds in like an IRA or anything like that. So if you're like a high school parent and you didn't do those things when they was a child, it's kind of very late to do that now because you're not going to have a lot of money set aside in those accounts, right? But we have to have a robust plan, right? So what else can we do? Can we look at your child having a scholarship list, right? A scholarship list and a strategic scholarship plan laid out for the amount of scholarships that they need to apply to, with the funder's name, how much the scholarship is worth. Is it one time or is it renewable? Does it matter what school I'm going to get this scholarship? So they should have a scholarship list, a scholarship plan, right? We also want to look at outside of the box opportunities. Um, do they work, right? Do you work? Does the company that you work for, do they offer tuition reimbursement or tuition assistance for their employees, for your child, or for employee dependents for you as a parent? Um, your bank, a lot of times credit unions will offer scholarships for their members. Are we looking at paying for college? Maybe they should go to a community college or a technical college first, right? To pay the lesser tuition per credit hour and then transfer to their dream college, right? So we just got to figure out what that funding plan is going to be. Do you qualify for the Pell Grant based on your household income? Maybe, maybe not. So we just got to figure out all of those funding options. We'll just figure out which ones are best for you. And so we'll be going over that at our next presentation. Okay.
Wonderful. Melinda's question is, if you have a student interested in engineering, what can they do if they may not want to go to a four-year college?
Well, some technical colleges, specifically in the state of Georgia, I know we do. We have some type of kind of like the engineering programs. They're not 4 year university courses, but it's like electrical engineering that they'll have in some of these colleges. But if they're looking for like the mechanical or civil or environmental engineering, if they want like those type of programs, they are definitely having to go to a 4 year university. So I guess the first question I would have is like, what type of engineering are they interested in? Because for a majority of them, it is 4 year university. It's just kind of no way around that.
Okay, thank you. Erica is asking, should I trust my child if he just wants to be the full driver of finding a college?
Um, Let me answer this as your pocketbook. I don't know if you want to, you're gambling, because I don't know if you want to have your child be the sole driver of this entire thing, because you are gambling with your person, your pocketbook, or your wallet. So I think there is some due diligence and some research um, and some things you might want to do as a parent because it will affect your pockets. Does that make sense? So there's some investment on your end just to protect kind of what you have going on financially at home.
Okay. Monique's question is, when is the best time for a junior to start applying to schools, and do we fill out the FAFSA before or after?
So juniors would not be applying for college unless they are applying for dual enrollment courses, right? Because you can be a high school student who is receiving credit for the course through high school and through college, the dual enrollment courses, right? Your child will not start applying for colleges until the fall semester of their senior year. And the FAFSA opens generally in October of every year. So they will already be applying to colleges before you complete the FAFSA, right? It's two separate processes. And so as a junior, you would not be applying for traditional undergraduate admissions. It would be dual enrollment courses.
Um, what do I do when my child doesn't really respect that I want to help with decision making in choosing the right college?
They don't respect, I want you to say that again. They don't respect that the parent wants to be a part of the decision making process.
Yes, in choosing the right college.
Kind of a tough situation to be in. As the parent, your role is to kind of help guide and to provide opportunities. Um, I think there is a why that we got to kind of figure out here and figuring out what is the why, like what is the plan. So if the child does not have, I don't say the child, the scholar does not have a plan, or does not have a robust enough plan to help them with this decision, like the parent has to be there. So if there is a mom doesn't know anything because she's mom, or dad doesn't know anything because they're dad, I think at that point in time, you want to bring in, somebody or an organization that does this thing. Like, so like there's a Next Step Education here in Metro Atlanta that is helping families. There's a College Readiness 101, that's helping families, right? So if mom doesn't know anything because she's mom, definitely bring in somebody else who does this, right? To be able to provide a little bit of structure and maybe some social proof that they know what they're talking about and they're able to assist families through the process.
And she says, LOL, yes, I agree. And her other comment was, um, she just said about, should I let her take the wheel and just trust her decisions? But then she said, got it from what you were saying.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
And then the other question I have is, can you apply to scholarships in your junior year, or is it just the senior year?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are scholarships for students as low as their freshman year, right? So yes, you can. We'll just need to tweak the search to be just for juniors. I'll give you an example. There's a program, and I wonder if y'all have it there in Pennsylvania. There's a program called Posse, the Posse Foundation, right? The Posse Foundation gives full tuition scholarships to students to go to colleges. The whole idea is a student dropped out of school and said, I would have never dropped out of school if I had my posse with me. So you can understand kind of the time frame of when this was. And so what they do is they give full tuition scholarships of cohorts of students to go to different colleges around the country, right? And they're usually further away from their state. So there's one here in Atlanta. I know there's one in New York, Houston. I think there's one in LA, there's one in New Orleans, there may be one in Las Vegas. I wonder if there's one in Philadelphia. There may or may not be. I don't know. But it gives you tuition. So that's like you apply in your junior year, right? To figure out if you can go through this program to get a full tuition scholarship. So that's just like one example of like a junior program. And so definitely find out. You can do some research. You can Google it. You can get with your high school counselor or some type of organization that does college access programming in your area and figure out what type of opportunities there are for students who are in your child's grade level. Does that make sense? So hopefully that helps. That's just like one example I could think of off the top of my head.
She said, actually, she replied and said, yes, I am familiar with that program.
Okay. Yep. But there may not be other programs exactly like Posse, but there are opportunities for juniors, definitely.
Okay.
All right. Is
Any
that,
other
is there
questions?
any other questions? That's a pretty easy crowd. I like this. I love the interaction. I love the engagement, parents, because this is for you. This is literally for you. So let's this get all of your questions answered through this series. I'm very excited about that. Just so you know, our next session is going to be about funding your child's college education. This is going to be a very important presentation because this is like the most important topic for parents. And so you definitely want to make sure that you are registering for this session. I'm going to bring in one of my colleagues, Atua, who did a lot of work for the state of Georgia and the financing of college education in the state of Georgia. So she's going to be here to assist with that. And so that's going to be on February the 25th, again from 6:30 to 7:30. So mark your calendars that we're going to be talking about funding your child's college education in 2 weeks. Okay, we want to make sure that we are talking about that. Were there any other questions, Ms. Kathy?
Nope, that was it.
All right. Well, I just wanted to share my contact information for anybody who wants to learn more about me and my organization. This is my website and my email. You can reach out to me anytime. Just say, hey, I was one of the parents on the PA Gear Up group, and we'll make sure that we provide you with any resources that you need. But I know the PA Gear Up family is and the team is doing like phenomenal work with you already, but you do now have another resource, another college access resource for your journey. So you could have this information, and I know that this is recorded, and you'll be able to watch this back in the future. But now you have another teammate in your journey. So, is that all of our questions, Ms. Kathy? Was there anything else?
That was all the questions.
Okay, all right. Well, parents, I want to thank you for your engagement, for your attentiveness, for your questions. Again, we're going to be having a whole series of this. So if you found this to be valuable, make sure you come back. I'm going to now toss it back over to Miss Kathy for any closing announcements or things that she needs for the PA Gear Up group.
Thank you, Brannon. Thank you all again for joining us this evening. Please make sure you fill out the survey, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar on February 25th at 6:30, where we will focus on financing your child's college education. I'm going to drop the survey link in the chat, and then you can also, we'll send it to you via email as well.
All right.
All right, everyone have a good evening. We look
Thank you
forward to
so much.
seeing you in 2 weeks.
We'll see you next time.